video tutorial, I wanted to show you how to create a ripple effect using some masking paper and some scissors. Now, it didn't turn out to be the most perfect look, but I do like the way that it turned out, and I really like clean and simple cards, so it was definitely a card that I really enjoyed in the end. I'm going to use the Time to Say Thanks stamp from Create a Smile stamps, and I'm going to stamp this onto a piece of masking paper. At this point, it doesn't matter what color ink you use as long as you can see it to cut it out. In order to create a ripple effect on the masking paper, I simply just drew an oval around underneath the leaf itself as to what I think the ripple would look like, and then I drew two little squiggly lines off to the side to represent the water's surface. Now I'm going to cut this out using my Tim Holtz scissors. I just got these scissors the other day and I can't even brag about them enough. They're the most amazing scissors ever. I started to cut out the top and then I realized I actually don't need to cut out the top at all. I'm just going to save some time and cut out the bottom. So I'm going to leave the ripple and the leaf as one space. I think it's going to be a lot easier in the end. So I'm going to grab a card base. I'm going to fold it in half to make a top folding card. And then I'm going to simply stamp the actual leaf onto the card. I'm going to use some Copic friendly ink, Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and stamp that there onto the card. Now I'm going to stamp it on an angle so that it looks like it fell into the water and created a ripple. Now I'm going to take my mask that I created in the first part of the video tutorial and I'm going to attach it onto my card. Now the ripple underneath should be the biggest ripple that you're planning on having on your card. So I'm going to take some tumbled glass distress ink and I'm going to start on the masking paper and work my way underneath to avoid any harsh lines. I like that I cut the masking paper extra big. It avoids making any sort of mistakes. I'm going to peel it off and then I'm going to simply trim my actual pond here, my ripple, and I'm going to trim it down on the bottom as well as on the sides. I'm going to try and keep it as circular as I can, and I'm just going to trim off little bits at a time. Now this is one of those clean and simple cards that looks really simple but did actually take quite a while. It probably took me about 20 minutes to make it. Just because you're continually pulling off that mask, relining it up, and then you are going back in with the distress ink each time. But it was a lot of fun. So I'm going back in with my distress ink right now and I'm just darkening up that area that I made before. You already have a good line, so you want to make sure that you don't blend so much that your color blends with the ones before, but you want to make sure that you can see the distinction between each ripple. So again, I just cut it down a little bit more. I'm going back in with my distress ink, and I'm going to do this several times until I get my desired look. As I said, you can cut off more each time to get a more dramatic effect, or you can go little by little. Just depends on how much time you want to invest in the technique. Just going to pull this off again, and you'll see that it's slowly coming to life. And this is going to be my smallest ripple here before I actually cut down completely to the leaf. And my masking paper at this point is quite saturated, which means that it's actually quite full of ink that it's starting to tear. So after I finished this ripple, I ended up stamping the leaf once again, cutting it out with my masking paper and just using a fresh piece. So just going in for the last ripple here with the tumbled glass. As you can see, I'm sort of struggling with my masking paper at this point because it's not as sticky anymore. It's quite saturated in ink and it's had about enough. So I, again, had to create a new piece. So I simply just went in with some spare masking paper. I stamped the leaf again and just cut it out off of screen, and then I was able to just attach my mask again over top of the leaf. This one was a lot easier to put down. Adding my last little bit of masking, you want to make sure that it's completely against the black line because you don't want any white. I did have a little bit of white underneath the leaf, which makes it look a little unrealistic, and I had to go back in and fill that in later. Next up was adding the sentiment, and it actually proved to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. I had to settle on something extremely simple because of the simplicity of the actual card itself. A big sentiment would have been a big distraction. So I just settled on the thanks from the same stamp set that the leaf came from. And I just stamped that in Memento ink just above the leaf. I went in with my Copic markers. I started off with my darkest color, which is R59, and just went in and started doing a brush stroke towards the top. I also colored in all the little line details as well, and then went along the top part of the leaf with the dark color. Then I went in with my medium color and blended that dark color more into the center of the leaf and towards the top of the leaf. And then lastly, I went in with my lightest color and just blended all three of those colors as best as I could. I wanted to make sure I didn't use too much ink because I didn't want anything to blend out of the lines. But I think it turned out quite pretty. And then I just went in and fixed the little white spot underneath the leaf. So that's the end of today's card, a very clean and simple look. I hope you're inspired to try something with maybe hand cutting or hand masking yourselves. All the supplies used are listed below in the video description or on my blog. Here you can click and check out my blog and supply list up at the top. You can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel, or you can click on either one of those videos to be taken to other videos that are with distress inks that might inspire you.